Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to do part 2 of the custom watch build. Now in part 1, I'll put a link to the video in the description below and probably up in the upper right corner so you can click on that. If you didn't watch part 1, what we do is we cover purchasing and finding all the parts you want, kind of looking at them, making sure that they're the right colors, the right shapes, the right sizes, everything you want to use for the case, the dial, the hands, band, and the movement. So if you, like I said, if you haven't watched that, go back and watch that one now, or you can watch it at your convenience. In part 2 here, what we're going to do, now that it's been about 4 weeks and all the packages have come through, we're going to open up the packages and just check everything out, make sure it's exactly what we ordered. You'll find that in this video, I do talk about the 2 dials that I ordered. I like to order a spare dial now and then for these watches. They came in kind of a silvery color, not white, and I was hoping for a white dial. Since they have come in, I've ordered a white dial, should be here in a few days, and I'll probably end up swapping that dial. And if I do, I will do a video on that and just do a follow-up. So let's get started. Let's take a look at what came in the mail. So over the last 4 weeks since we've ordered all our items, they have finally come in. The first thing to come in was our Strapco band, and this is the band I'm going to use. It's going to be a blue and white band, and hopefully it matches the case a little bit. We're going to find out when we get started on it. I'm going to put that aside over here. Let's take a look at the next thing that we got. We've got the movement itself. Let's give this a little open, see how it looks inside. And I'm just going to gently open that up. Take a look at the movement. This is our dial washer, and it looks like it's in good shape. Put that aside there. And here's our movement with the crown in it. We also have a new stem. So there's our stem, there's our movement with its temporary crown, and we are going to have to use this to get everything set, but that's going to be the stem that we use and cut to fit our case. So I'm going to put these all back in the box here, and we'll put that aside. The next thing that came in, and if you remember, I ordered 2 of these. I wanted to get myself 2 white dials because I really like the combination, and I'm trying to make a GMT version of the watch that I had here. And I was a little bit disappointed in this, but we got 2 dials, they're identical. And if we take a look at them here, you can see that actually it came in on the silver side. So yeah, they sold them as white, but they're silver. I wasn't very happy with that, to be honest with you. We're going to go ahead and put this on the watch while we do this today. I did go ahead and order a white dial, so when that comes in, I'll just show you how we do the swap on this. Okay, but remember I ordered 2 because I said I wanted to try something different with the laser engraver. So we're going to try to mark this with a logo on top of it for the laser engraver. So I've got these 2 dials. Let's just put these back here so they don't get damaged. And we'll put those aside. The next thing we got is the case. Let's take a look at this case. And you can see this is, I believe it was a 44 millimeter case. Let's just take a quick measurement of this and see what this comes in at. Let's grab the micrometer here and we'll take a quick glance here. Yeah, it's a 44 millimeter case. So you can see by the measurement there. Measure from one side to the other. If we measure this side, 40 comes in at 45.5. But yeah, that looks good. I'm kind of happy with that. The blue could have been a little bit nicer, but I like the brush look of that blue bezel. It does click. It only clicks in one way. I'm very happy with that because it's a sign of a better movement. And we do have the see-through back. So we're going to try to do something on the movement, on the rotor system. We'll engrave that also with our logo. But that's it for the case. We've got a nice screw down crown here. And I'll just pop this open here and you can see it's a nice, let's see if I can get it in my fingers here so you can see it. Got a nice pusher style crown. So that does push in. And that's good because that'll make a good contact. I'm going to put this back on the case for now because we want to keep that from flying away. And we'll put that aside. And last but not least, let's see here. I'm not going to get that off. Let's see if we can pop these open. There we go. I'll pop this open a little bit and take a look at the hands that we have here. Gently grab our second hand. So here's our second hand, nice blue color, and I think that's going to match perfectly. We've got our hour and minute hand here, and they're both blue. And then we have our GMT hand, and you can see that is silver with, get that back in there. Got it right there. That is silver with a blue tip. I think that looks pretty good. I'm sure we're going to be happy with this assembly. I'm going to put those back in there, and we'll cover this back up. Just put that aside. Okay, so pardon the noise and the shaking on this. I'm going to try to hold the camera steady. So I've gone ahead and I've set up my logo design for my laser engraver. And this is kind of what I'll be engraving here. Let's just see if I can zoom out. I'm going to do that logo on the dial. And we're going to hope that it engraves very well. So I'm going to try to hold this as steady as I can. And I've done some tests on it. So we're going to go ahead and keep this at a low power of 15%. And I am going to go ahead and do a burn on this. Let's see if it works. Remember, I bought 2 dials because if I sacrifice one, I'm okay with it. So that's where it's going to engrave. And that's where it's going to go ahead and do the engraving. So let's go ahead and give this a shot. Keep your fingers crossed. Ready? 1, 2, 3. It doesn't look like it's doing much. That's okay. We're going to keep going until we get this right. And it didn't do anything on the dial. So we've successfully not engraved our dial here. Okay, this is test 2. We're going to go ahead and try this one more time. And I'm going to bump the settings up to 25% on the engraving. And let's see what happens here. I've got this set low enough so it doesn't heat up the dial because we don't want to burn the dial. Okay, so you can see we started getting a little imprint. I've been playing around with it. We're getting closer. Let's turn the power up to 30%. Again, I'm at a low frequency on my laser engraver, and we're just going to go for it and see what happens. Ready, set, flame, go. Okay. Take a quick snapshot of this and see what it looks like. Okay, so I've got my watch timer set up here. I'm gonna go ahead and put it on the timer, and then we're gonna see what this thing does. and I will take a little video of it. I'm kind of working in cramped quarters today, just bear with me. Okay, so it looks like we're a little bit off on the beat error, but we're keeping good time. So I'm pretty happy with that. I'm going to flip this over and see what it does. Okay, I flipped the movement over and it's running face down, and we're going to take a look at this. And we're running about the same. So our beat error is still off. I'm going to work on that and try to get that down, and I will be back when I get that timed really well. Okay, since I have timed the watch here, you can see our beat error is down to 1 millisecond. I think that's pretty good. We're plus about 1 or 2 seconds fast a day, and I'm going to leave it there. I could keep tweaking it, and I could spend a half an hour trying to get it better. I think for a watch of this caliber, we're doing pretty good. So it's running well, runs up and face down the exact same. With a little bit of oil, it seems to be running a lot smoother than it did when it came out of the box. Pretty happy with this, and we're going to go put it together now. So let's start the assembly. Okay, guys, what you're seeing here is my layout of the entire job here, and it is looking pretty good so far. I've got everything laid out just the way I want it, and you can see here I've got the case, I've got my hands, I've got the dial, and you can see by the laser engraving the dial came out really nice. I think it's just about perfect. I did 800 dots per inch on that laser engraving. And we have our movement, and our movement is running right now. Okay, so we're pretty much ready to go here, and you can see I've got everything laid out here. I've got my hands, my case, the movement, the dial. Like I said, I think the dial came out pretty good. Let me know what you all think in the comments below. What I want to do now is get the dial onto the movement. So that's the first step, and it has multiple feet on it. This particular one has 4 dial feet. We only need 2. So we have to mark 2 of these and cut the 2 that we don't need. We do know that this dial has a spot on it where it is going to be pretty much, get that all squared away here. Pretty much we know the dial is going to be set with the 3 at the stem position and the date at the 4 o'clock or 4:30 position. And if we look at our movement here, we put these together. What I'll do is I'll put the 3 right here, and we'll take note that the dial foot right here has to come off, because if we look closely, you can see this dial foot goes in that hole. Okay, so we know we're going to cut this particular one right off, this one right here. So let's get our snippers and snip that son of a gun right off. And again, we want to make sure that we cut off this one right here. So I'm going to grab that with my snippers, and I'm going to flush cut it right along there. And gentle, pull it off. And now we know that that dial foot is good. So I spread this around here and get it back onto the watch, wherever that dial foot goes, right there. Now we can look at the other side and zoom in. Now we can see which one we want to use here. And we're going to cut off the one that is at the 8:30 position, which is going to be right here. 8:30, if I'm not mistaken. 8:30, exactly. So now what I'm going to do is just trim this up a little bit, give it a little twist, and that's gone. Okay, so the 2 dial feet that we don't need are now off the watch. And what I'm going to do is gently put this onto the movement, just like so. And then we're going to make some changes to the dial feet if we need to. And you can see why I'm wearing gloves, because I don't want to do any damage here. And now we're just going to pressure test this and see if everything goes together okay. And if it doesn't, I can move the dial feet in and out a little bit just to give us a little bit of room. Okay, so dial's on, and next thing I want to do is I want to take a look and see if we're centered on the dial. And look at that, this came out perfect. It's perfectly centered. There are no screws holding this particular dial onto the movement. It's just pressure fit through the plastic rim that's on the movement. And here you can see I also engraved the rotor when I did the engraving on that. We'll take a little rotocoat and clean that up. So the rotor has our logo on it also. Just a nice touch that you have on the watch. Okay, with that being done, now we'll move on to the next stage, which is to take the watch and we're going to change it so that the date changes. That way we know when we get to the point where the date changes, we're at the midnight position. And I have to put the hands on before I actually put it in the case. So let's take this. We're going to pull our stem out to the first click, and I'm just going to turn it just to make sure that everything is nice and smooth, and it is. And one thing I forgot to do, guys, I'm glad I caught this, was put the dial washer on. Let's take this dial back off very carefully. And even I do this when I'm kind of in a hurry. So let's slow down. Let's grab our dial washer here. Get that out of the bag. Static cling, we don't like that. Okay. So I got my dial washer here. We'll put that on. This is just going to keep the dial from putting too much pressure or the hands slipping off the movement improperly when you go to assemble your watch. And let's get that back in place. Again, we'll double check here. Everything's nice and seated correctly. Looks good. I'm just going to gently squeeze this. And now when I turn this, I've got a nice click. And it's giving me a little bit of some tension here, so I'm thinking that it's probably already set to midnight. Now when I use the hand turn, you can see if I move my crown counterclockwise, it rotates the hands counterclockwise. So we want to go forward by turning the crown clockwise. And what we're going to do is we're going to wait till it hits 27 here. And now we're just pushing over, and I like to wait for the snap. There we go. And now that's where I typically set my hands at midnight. Okay, so we just snapped over to 27. I'm in the setting position, so we're in good shape so far. Let's go ahead and grab our hands out of our box here. Pull these out. Let's get them on our bench. Now, this particular watch, the GMT hand gets set first. So I'm going to grab my hand tools, my hand pressure tools here. And we're going to grab this GMT hand, and we are going to gently put it on the movement at the 12 o'clock position. And let's just be very careful here. Yes, I am wearing gloves because I'm trying to avoid any oils that get from my hands onto the watch dial or the movement. So I'm going to gently put that right at the midnight position here, right at the 12 o'clock position. And then with my hand tool, I've got two different sizes on this particular one. There's a small size here and a larger size here. What we're going to do is we're going to take this and we're going to gently push this into position. Rotate it like this so that I can see it. And with my hand tool, I'm just going to push down on the GMT hand, try to get it seated correctly. And if it moves around on you, don't worry. You just keep pushing it over. It'll sometimes pop off. What I don't want to do is scratch the dial, so I'm just trying to be careful here. Okay. Now, sometimes these hand tools don't work. If that's the case, my suggestion is get yourself a nice pair of thin tweezers. Very gently hold them almost at an angle so they're facing up. That way you won't touch the dial. And then we're going to try to line that up onto that GMT post or wheel. And get our hand move over just a bit, right like that. And now let's just kind of zoom in here and take a look and see if we can get this put on very carefully. And I'm applying very, very light pressure to this. And there it's just kind of seated correctly. With that being seated correctly, at least I know I'm getting it on the GMT wheel. And I'm just going to gently keep trying to keep that on there. If these give you a hard time, remember, all these hands and all these movements are made in different places, and you will find that sometimes they aren't perfectly fit. Just bear in mind with that said. Now, sometimes I'll actually take my finger and hold this in place. Okay, my GMT hand is on. If I could stop knocking into my camera, would be good. Now this does need a little push down. It is a little bent. So I'm gently going to push that hand down. And then we'll just double check and see that it all turns good. And so far it does. Good. Okay, I'm going to come back to the midnight position, just like so. And now we're going to set the hour hand on the watch. If your hands are like mine and they're painted, you're going to have to be very cautious and not scratch any of the paint that's on the hand. Sometimes you can use plastic tweezers. They tend to be a little bit larger and a little bit sloppier, so it can be a little bit on the brutal side if you're using plastic tweezers. Get that onto the hour wheel and just wiggle it back and forth a little bit. And what we're trying to do is get that on there enough so that it's tight on the pinion. And let's see here, we're a little over. What I'll do is I'll just push that over so slightly. Okay, now we're lined up good. I think that's pretty good. And let's check clearance. What we want to do is we want to have enough clearance between the GMT hand and the hour hand. That hour hand looks like it could go down a little bit farther, so let's just keep wiggling it until we get that pushed down. Okay. That looks good. And I'm just going to push that forward ever so slightly. Okay. Now that our hour hand is on, let's go to our minute hand. Get that in your tweezers very carefully. Okay, so I've got my hour or my minute hand here, and I'm gently going to put that onto the movement just like so. And again, we're going to lay it right at 12 o'clock. And now I'm going to use the smaller side. And it looks like we slipped off a little bit, so let's get this lined up again. And I'm using my finger, just pushing gently on it, trying to hold it in place. Sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't. I'm not liking this today. Okay, I held it down with my finger. That seems to have worked a little bit. Now I'm just going to gently push down and get that onto the minute wheel, or the cannon pinion in this case. Now I've got that lined up. Let's just take a look at the hands and see if they all line up at the 12 o'clock position. And it looks like we're in good shape. The GMT hand wiggles a little bit, but that's to be expected again. And now you can see here, if we look closely, our minute hand can be pushed down a little bit more and angled upward, just to make sure that we have enough clearance. Let's just push down on this hour hand ever so carefully. Okay. check clearances and make sure that they work this way, and then let's take a look and see how we're looking here. And you can see the hands are nicely spaced. Perfect. Okay. Lastly, we're going to put the second hand on. Actually, before I do that, just to make sure, let's go ahead and do a 24-hour set here, just to make sure that the date switches properly when we get to the midnight position. Perfect. Okay, so I'm just going to move this forward a little bit. Okay, I'm going to put that in there, and because I pushed the crown in, everything should be running now. Let's go ahead and get the second hand on. Aha, we got it, guys. Let's just push that down a little bit more. Okay, so there's our second hand. It's running. I'm going to pull this out to the second click and just make sure that our minute hand and our second hand have enough clearance. And they do. Okay. Now, one of the things that I run into occasionally is that the hands might be a little too tall for the movement. We're going to check this out. I think we're going to be in good shape. We're going to find out here in a moment. What I'm going to do now is push the crown in, and we are going to gently release the clutch so that we can take the stem out. And let's take a look at where that is. Our clutch release is on this particular watch right there. See that little detent right there? Okay, so I'm going to hold this in my hand so that it doesn't fall onto the hands of the watch. And if you notice, if I pull this out to the first click, it goes away. So we know we have to remove this stem when the clutch is in the running position. So I'm just going to push this in and pull on that stem. And there we go. There's our watch. Now, for the moment of truth, if we have to make any changes to the hand setup, this is where we're going to find out. Not always fun to do. And I apologize. I know you guys have been with me here for 20 minutes working on this, but we're almost done. Okay, first things first. I am going to remove the back cover and the crown, so I've taken that out of the watch. I'm going to zoom out here a little bit so we've got a better view. And what we're shooting for here is when we put the movement in, we don't want a situation where the hands are rubbing up against the case itself. I think we might have an issue with this particular case. Depends on what case you guys go through. What I'm going to do now is just kind of put the crown and the stem together. And we're going to do, see here, I'm just screwing that in. And I'm not going to do it tight. I just want to get it on there enough. 3 o'clock goes towards the case tube here. And it says that this is made perfect to fit. And by gosh, by golly, look at that. We are inside. Don't look too bad. Again, the dial, it's silver. I really wish it was white. I did order the white one. I think I mentioned that. So when the white one comes in, I will go ahead and do this all over again to show you the difference. Now, next best thing here is we're going to set that clutch back in position. And you can see here, push the detent down and then insert the stem. Okay, release that, and then we're going to try winding it. You can see it's winding as I'm turning. I'm holding the movement in place, and now I'm going to pull it out to the second click, and we're just going to go around and make sure that the hands themselves are not hitting any part of the inner case. Well, so far so good. Well, let's just go around, make sure the date changes to the 29th. Perfect. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with that. Let's go ahead and make sure that stem's in all the way. And I want to check and see if there's any place that I can put clamps in, but there's not. So we're in a position here where we can't put case clamps on or movement clamps. So that means the back cover of this watch is going to hold the movement in place. So what I want to do now is just make sure I wipe down the inside of the crystal. And I haven't really touched this. So I'm just going to wipe it down. We've got a little bit of marking here, you can see, because if you look closely, you'll see little bubbles in there. That's from the plastic protective crystal. So what I'm going to do now is just tighten this up to see if it's held in place, and if it is held in place properly, whether or not the rotor still turns properly. Okay, and the rotor is turning as we turn the watch. That's good. And the movement's in there. It's not rattling or anything. I think we're good there. And now what we have to do is measure our stem and crown to make sure that we can put this on the watch, get it into a position where it's going to fit. Now, there's a lot of people who will tell you to cut these with the cutters. One thing I like to do is I will use a diamond wheel just to finish up the ends after I cut them. And how I like to measure this is by pushing the crown all the way in, make sure I'm in the winding position. And if we wind this, you can see, maybe you can't see here, we're winding the movement here. And every time I turn it, you can see the ratchet for the mainspring is turning, which is perfect. So we're in the winding position, or the running position. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to push my crown in, and I'm going to measure the gap between the case itself and the inside of the bottom part of the crown. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure this and push out just a little bit. What I want to do is be careful not to scratch a case. I want to get that lined up, and I want to cut approximately 4 millimeters off. So 4.5 millimeters is what this says. I think I'll start with 4, and I'll just make little adjustments to it from that point. Let's unwind this, cover off. Okay, and again, we have to remove the stem and crown. So I'm going to grab my small screwdriver here, or you can use a pin or a needle. And I am going to push down that detent and remove the stem. Take the crown off of this. And now I know I have to cut a little bit more than 4 millimeters off of this. So what I typically do is, like it said 4.48, I believe was on the micrometer. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cut 4 millimeters off of this. And then I'm going to use the diamond wheel here to polish up the end, give it a little bit of a point, and just make sure that I have extra on there, just in case I have to make any adjustments. You can't add metal to these, you can only remove it. So a little bit at a time. Let's go ahead and cut this. Grab my cutters. Now after you trim this, you're going to see, and I'm going to pull in here close, you're going to see I've got a very sharp edge. That edge on the threads here on the stem make it very difficult to screw down onto the crown, because you'll get little burrs there. So we burnish those off. Okay, when I'm done burnishing, you can see now I've got a little point there, and that just makes it easier for the crown to attach to the stem. So I'm going to come in here, get that on there. I'm doing this behind the camera, so just bear with me. gloves and a camera in the way here. Okay, now I'm hand tightening this. I'm not going to clamp it down all the way yet. And we're going to go ahead and reinsert it back into the movement. Again, we're going to push down on the detent to loosen up our thing. Don't push too hard because you can break these. Push it in until it seats all the way. And then we're going to check and make sure it's winding. It is. I'm going to pull this one click. It locks. 2 clicks. And it locks. Now I'm going to push in and I'm going to try to screw down the crown. And you can see I got pretty lucky here. Okay, so I'm screwed in. The crown is all the way down. That's what we want. So I measured good the first time. Now, just to make sure that I'm safe, and you can do this yourself or not, I'm going to remove the stemming crown one more time. Okay, let's put that over there. I'm going to unscrew the crown from the stem. And I'm going to grab a wee bit of Loctite. If I can find it. And I use a little bit of red thread locker here. It's already oozing out of my bottle, so let's just grab that bottle here. And what I do is I get a little bit on the threads here, just like so. You don't need a lot. And what we're going to do is we're going to put this back onto the crown. And I'm going to screw this in very carefully. I'm going to grab over here where the threads are. Okay, so I've got that clamped down. I'm just going to tighten that crown just a little bit more. Okay. And then grab a rag or something here, and we'll wipe off any excess Loctite or thread locker. And then again, we're going to put that back in for the final time. Push down the detent. Again, we're going to make sure it's winding. It is. 1 click, 2 clicks, perfect. And it should thread all the way down. And seal, and that's good. Everything's still working on our watch. So far, so good. Let's get this case on here now. Okay, one thing you guys probably have already, but if you don't, get yourself a nice pair of openers. And we are gonna just tighten this down here. Just like so. Okay. So I'm recording this on Easter Sunday, and I'm gonna put this video up tonight. It probably won't get a lot of views tonight, but it is Easter, and what the heck, I got nothing to do today. Let's go ahead and set the time here. Okay, crown's out. And today is the 20th, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and turn the date wheel to 18 or 19, which was yesterday. And then we've got the GMT thing here where I'm going to just kind of float that around. It's going to move when I go to set this. It is currently 1:33 in the afternoon. Let's go ahead and get this switched over to the 20th. Okay, and we know it's 1:33 in the afternoon, so we'll get to noon, 1:33. Push that in all the way, pull it out 1 click, and then we're going to do, probably should have, you know what, let's do this right. I want this to be about 6 hours off. Okay, I'm going to set that like this, put the crown in, we're going to give that another wind, push it in. Okay, so that is our final project. I'm not going to take this protective cover off that back just yet. Okay, the last thing we need to do to make this thing all nice and spiffy is get our watch band on it. And I love these bands, guys. I know I told you how much I love them. I think they're the greatest bands ever. I've had some leather bands that were as nice as these, but these are just super good. Okay, so I'm not crazy about these thin spring bars, so we're going to use the spring bars that obviously came with the watch case. Going to grab those off. And we'll get rid of these thin ones because I'm not crazy about thin spring bars, especially on a sport watch. Okay, so remember, the buckle end, the part with the buckle on it, that goes on the top. So we're going to go ahead and I'm going to zoom out here so we get a better angle. And let's get this one right here. Now these bands, because they're silicone and they are very tight fit on these cases, you can see when I go ahead and put this on there, going to give you a little hard time getting these spring bars in. So they're silicone, so you can kind of bend them around a little bit. And I can get a good angle on this. Let's see here. What I'm trying to do, you can see here, the spring bar there. You're going to push that in. And then try to hear for a click. And I'm using the plastic end of my hand tool here so that I don't scratch anything on the watch. And again, these silicone bands, they go on hard, but once they're on and they're fit, oops. Okay, one's on. Let's get the other one on there. Oops. Again, we'll put that nice heavy spring bar in, and we're gonna work on this side now. I'm gonna get one hole in place, and then we're gonna push that in. Let's see if I can get an angle on this for you. Okay, again, I'm going to use my hand tool so I don't scratch anything. Push that forward. Once it's in there, we'll just find that hole, and there we go. Just going to go ahead and kind of semi-buckle this up a little bit, so you get a feel for what it looks like. Now, the blue on the band doesn't quite match perfectly the blue on the bezel, but it's close. Be interesting to see what this looks like in the daylight. And there you have it, guys, how to build your own custom watch using the GMT Seiko NH34 movement. It's a very nice movement. We went ahead, we customized the dial. We also customized the rotor with the logo on that also. And I guess I could take that, we'll leave that cover on there for now. That's it, guys. That's how we build our own custom watch. Now, I remember I did tell you in the beginning of this video, I purchased a white dial. When that dial comes in, should be here in a week, I'm just going to go ahead and remove the hands, remove the dial, do the same process, put it all back together, but I'll show you the results afterwards. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you liked this video. If you did like this video, please consider subscribing and give it a thumbs up. If you have any comments, please leave them in the comments section below, and I will be happy to answer as many questions as I can. Thanks, and have a great day. Happy Easter, and may God be with you.